Welcome to Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11.
You are locked into Home Track Heroes here on the CW11. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on a Sunday afternoon for what's going to be one of our biggest shows of the year, the Mark Galloway Shootout presented by Monroe Grocery Outlet. I am Caleb Hart. He is Greg Pyland. And Greg, we're going big track racing for the first time on the year. The 5/8 mile is getting used as we've got super late models and pro late models in action, as well as two great classes on the 3/8. This is going to be an awesome show.
It's always exciting, and it's something I think we look forward to so much out here at Evergreen Speedway the first time they use the 5/8 oval. And, you know, nothing like it when you see those cars coming down the front stretch and you see that amount of speed that they're able to carry through turns 3 and 4 and come down the front stretch. Great show, and we're really excited to see what the Mark Galloway has for this year.
There's nothing quite like the sound and the fury of the big track. Now, a number of these teams have been out and about. They've been practicing pre-race, so that's not going to be maiden voyage laps for them. But let's learn who the field is, who the drivers are going to be competing for this 75 lap. In the pro late models to start us out, the Speedway Chevrolet pro late models. And on the pole, it's going to be Casey Klein. It's the Thamont Farms #1. And next to Casey, the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick, sponsored by Trademark RCS.
Row number 2, we have sponsored by Johansson Mechanical, the K9 of Caden Holm. On the outside, sponsored by Northwest Builder Group, it's the 89 of Donnie Wanat.
Row number 3, Nick Beecher. Car number 45 is sponsored by Kendall Auto Group. Next to him, Haley Constance, the 78 car, sponsored by Joe's Racing Products.
Row number 4, it's the 98 of Greg Bennett, brought to you by Bennett Design Construction. On the outside, the 19 of Thomas Stanford, sponsored by D.A. Davidson Wealth Management.
In row number 5, Busch Light sponsors the 7D of Dawson Cox. Next to him, the defending track champion in the Pro Late models, the J&R Truck Rentals number 18 of Nama Lang.
Sponsored by PRCBD, it's the 16 of Daniel Moore. On the outside, sponsored by Northwest Broiler, it's the 14 of Colton Price.
Row behind them, the new Property Solutions 33G of Nick Gunderson. And outside of him, Brian Cottrell, the Dirt Cheap Sewer number 10. Final row, Chase Gardner, the 32, sponsored by HCI Steel Buildings. 15 cars, 75 circuits around the 5/8 mile here at Evergreen Speedway. And you're going to get our first look at our turn 3 and 4 cam. I love that viewpoint and the speed sensation that we're going to get carrying them in. Down the front they go, and the green is out. Klein versus Fitzpatrick on the front row.
And here we go, Fitzpatrick on the outside as they come into row number 1. Klein on the inside there, and looks like maybe even Caden Holm trying to make a little bit of move there side by side with Donnie Wanat. Just great side-by-side racing down the backstretch. Slight advantage to Chad Fitzpatrick as they come into 3.
We expect this field to go side by side for the first couple of laps or so, but with the speeds here in the 5/8, beautiful drone shot coming out of that. The speed in the 5/8, we expect that they're going to stretch out relatively soon. Into turn number 1 they go. Cars still running nose to tail as Fitzpatrick's leading the early portion of the race, and Wanat up around the outside of Klein, going to roll his way into second.
Yeah, Donnie Wanat doing a really good job coming from the outside of row number 2 now, right behind Chad Fitzpatrick in the 12C. So we see the battle there as Klein trying to hold on, went a little bit low there in turns 3 and 4, able to make a nice recovery, but Donnie Wanat just cruising now right behind on the back bumper there of Chad Fitzpatrick.
Oh, cars together, turn number 1, and across the nose we go. And damage to the 78 of Haley Constance. Our first caution of this comes out just a few laps into the race.
Yeah, it looks like some contact. We'll go back to the replay here between the 78. Here's inside of the 70 of Dawson Cox, and we see a little bit of contact there, and Haley gets a little bit sideways, and we see Greg Bennett just go right into the side in turn number 1.
Yep, you saw Dawson Cox shoot the gap and go, okay, I can make this. Nama Lang doing the same thing from the inside on Bennett's perspective, and you can see he almost got the left side tires down in the rumble strip, and that was the one that hurt. That first little tap, no bueno. Here from Haley's perspective, up in the middle groove, there's the tap, and this is the expensive part. Bang, right there. As nose, all of your fender bracing and more, that's almost surely going to end Constance's day, much less if the radiator's even still intact. So quick carnage, unfortunately, between the 98 and the 78 to start this thing off.
Yeah, you always hate to see that, especially this early in a race, but to see something like that happen to somebody we enjoy watching so much in the 78 of Haley Constance, too, unfortunate. But we'll see as we get ready to restart here, the Evergreen Speedway pace car exiting off. And we have the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick and the 89 of Donnie Wanat there in row number 1 as they wind their way into turn number 4.
This is a good situation for Wanat outside row number 1, one of the Northwest's best late model drivers, the reigning Fall Classic champion, as they'll work down the front straight away. And Fitzpatrick, no slouch in our pro late model division himself. He hasn't seen or experienced the same success on the 5/8s as he has on the 3/8s over the course of his career, but today's a really good day to change that.
Absolutely, and we see a little bit of fall off there from Klein in the number 1 car, as we see, I think, able to get by as Caden Holm in the K9 car, and right now Donnie Wanat with a great view there as well, making that challenge on the inside of turn number 4, and now coming across the line, it looks like it's still going to be Chad Fitzpatrick, at least for the time being, but there goes Donnie Wanat making the pass on the 12C out of turn number 2, and here comes Caden Holm as well.
Yep, so give it to Wanat, your early leader. Fitzpatrick is second, Holm is third. We had a pretty big invert on this field. The invert was 10 coming into this main event, so drivers from that deep starting position starting to work their way up. Wanat, who started a little further up in the field, going to look to run away and hide as quick as he can while the rest of the fast cars making their way through. Holm makes the move for second. That's Thomas Stanford trying to roll his way into third. Driver we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of this year, but always fast when he shows up at Evergreen Speedway.
Absolutely, and Chad Fitzpatrick looks like he was just getting caught in that middle lane there as Caden Holm was coming by. You saw, as you just mentioned, Thomas Stanford trying to get on the inside there of the 12C, and there goes Chad, able to get right in front of Thomas Stanford as they come down across the start-finish line. So good recovery there, and then Stanford goes a little wide there in turns 1 and 2, but Donnie Wanat starting to run away here a little bit. Caden Holm hoping to kind of keep pace with him as they come down the backstretch.
You already saw Holm wash up into the middle groove in the first and second corner. And it's one of the things about the 5.8s, because you carry so much more speed down the back straightaway, corner entry is abundantly more difficult. You got to be right on your timing with the brakes. You really got to be correct on when you're going throttle pickup, because if you get too early, you're washing right out to the wall. And you're seeing a little bit of that as the drivers continue to jockey for position. Wanat, Holm, and Fitzpatrick under heavy pressure from Stanford for third.
Yeah, so Stanford there still trying to get around Fitzpatrick. It looks like as that battle continues, Klein still holding, but there goes Wanat. Not Wanat, I'm sorry, but there goes, looks like Stanford trying to get to the inside once again, not able to complete that there as Wanat still leads this pack around turn number 2.
Stanford made the move in his personal life over to Eastern Washington here in the off-season. We haven't seen as much of him at Evergreen Speedway, and obviously first time we've opened up the 5.8s this year, but clearly still as strong as he was at the close of 2022 when he ended up second in points to Nama Lang in our Pro Late Model division. So it's Wanat, Holm, and again, Stanford just sneaking out of line enough to peek to the inside of Fitzpatrick. Can't quite make the move. They cruise around third and fourth. Klein fifth in the 1 car. Behind them, Dawson Cox in the 7 and Nama Lang in the 18 battling for position as Stanford finally got the inside lane going into 3.
And Nama Lang looking to try and take over that 6th spot right now from Dawson Cox as they come out of turn number 4 and head down the front stretch. So we see a good look here of Chad Fitzpatrick now trying to hold off Klein as they come into turn number 1, but there goes Dawson Cox a little bit wide into turn number 1. Nama Lang just riding that low lane as they come out of turn number 2, nearly side by side, but still battling back and forth. Great job there by Dawson Cox down the backstretch to maintain that 6th spot.
So give it to Dawson for the time being. Lang right there pushing hard. Although Nama knows you don't have to be all the way up at the front at the very beginning of this, 75 laps around the 5.8s. You have a lot of time, even as the laps start ticking out, because it's a lot of race still to go. Quickly though, 10 in the books. 65 remain on the ledgers. Klein trying to sneak that right front fender up to the door of Fitzpatrick entering the corner. Look at your top 3 once again, and there's Klein making the move coming out of corner number 4, just seeing it at the back end of your picture.
Yeah, great battle there for 4th and 5th there between Fitzpatrick and Klein, and we see that battle continuing for that 6th spot as once again Nama Lang goes to the inside here, this time in turn number 2. We saw how fast Dawson Cox is down that backstretch, and he's going to do the same thing once again, pull away from the 18 car. And like you said, still a lot of race left, 64 laps to go. But I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of fun between that 7D and the 18 car here for the rest of this race.
Yeah, and I got to wonder if that's a function of where Dawson's picking the throttle up in the corner versus Nama. If Nama might be driving a little deeper into the corner but having to lift a little deeper into the turn subsequently, where Dawson's picking up the throttle earlier in the turn, lifting early, picking it up sooner, making for a longer straightaway on the gas, and that's where you're watching the pull-away come from.
We see Nick Beecher also in the 45 car coming up as we take another look here at the K9 Caden Holm as they come across the front stretch. Thomas Stanford in the 19 car, but nice to see Nick Beecher, and also at the same time Daniel Moore right behind Nick Beecher in the 16 car. So we'll see what they can do with 62 laps remaining, but once again Donnie Wanat out in front and just cruising ahead of Caden Holm in the K9.
These laps are looking very easy for Wanat out front. He's not really stretching over Holm at the same time. He's not really abusing the tires. You don't see the back end of the race car stepping out and around for him as he's getting onto the throttle, so still keeping his equipment in reserve. Maintaining a nice lead as we're going to flash back again in the field. That is 6th, 7th, and 8th. 12 of Chad Fitzpatrick, the 7 of Naima Lang, the 7 of Dawson Cox, and the 18 of Naima Lang.
They come here into turn number 3 and 4, and Naima Lang right on that back bumper of Dawson Cox as they come out of 4 and down the front stretch. But that battle continues here, and so far it's been Dawson Cox getting the better, and he looks like he's trying to take on Chad Fitzpatrick now in turns 1 and 2, but great job there by the 12C, be able to hold on to his spot. He's currently sitting in the 4th spot in front, but are in the 5th spot right now for the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick.
There you go. It's all right. We'll get her out. So Lang still pressuring hard on the inside of Cox. In fact, he has got the inside groove as they work into the first corner. Can he capitalize on it? Door panel to door panel. The 18 moves forward. You watch Dawson and, yep, can't quite get the momentum down the back straightaway. So up into 7th goes Lang here, 16 laps into this race, and picks off a car a lap. At that rate, he's going to end up a little bit short, so he will have to step it up or hope for a caution at some point in time, because Wanat's starting to put some physical track position between himself and that mid-pack of cars. You look at it, he's got a straightaway and change over that mid-pack at minimum.
He certainly does, and Caden Holm is seemingly kind of hanging on to that spot. He's obviously not that close to Donnie Wanat, but he's definitely maintaining some pretty good pace, and Thomas Stanford trying to do the same thing. But you see, as you can see them come down the front stretch, just how much of a lead the 89 car has over the rest of the field here. So pretty impressive by the 89 to see if he can continue as he comes out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. But like I said, nice to see Caden Holm in the K9 car kind of maintaining with the 89 at least for now.
I saw the front end of that car wobble a little bit coming out of turn number 4, so we're going to keep an eye on that. These cars do naturally get looser as the race goes on. Your tires wear out, your fuel load burns off, they get harder to handle, so we'll maintain the eyeballs in the front of the K9, although, hey, even with a front end of the car getting looser, he is narrowing the gap on Wanat here as we approach the third of the way done mark, just 6 laps away from being 1/3 of the way into this race.
You see Stanford still trying to maintain that pace as the top 3 continue here out of turn number 4, and just now coming into the scene there looks like coming back. Not sure if that was the number 1 still of Casey Klein, but you just see how far back they are and how far in front Donnie Wanat is in the 89.
Klein, your 4th position car. Lang is 5th on the running order and still outside of the picture, just kind of barely clipping into it as Wanat consistent getting through 3 and 4 and leading this race. He has led nearly all of them as he completes another lap. We're down to 54 to go. A little wider exit of turn number 2 though for Donnie. Let's see if Holm can do anything to close in and narrow that gap once again.
So once again, Donnie Wanat now down into turn number 3. Caden Holm coming into turn number 3 just now. There's Thomas Stanford into 3 as they work into 4. But like you said, just a continued dominance here for the 89 cars. They come down the front stretch, and there's Klein. And it looks like maybe right behind him might be Naima Lang as they kind of start to creep in on each other here. We'll see if they can get the 18 car past the number 1 and maybe try and catch up to the 89 of Donnie Wanat, but he is just cruising and now increasing his lead over the K9 of Caden Holm.
Interesting that we're seeing him and stretching that advantage by going a little bit higher out of the corners, as we're going to go in cockpit with Lang, who is working on Klein for position number 4. That's the battle you see in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. From the cockpit of Naima's car, gets awfully narrow up at the top of that fence, but he's got a lot of room and a very stable mount. As he comes off a 2 and down the back straightaway, almost even Stevens. In fact, now nosing ahead of Klein going into turn number 3.
Yeah, great move there, and it's something I've been watching Naima race for so long, and I'm so used to seeing him pretty much locked like he's a train on railroad tracks, just locked into that low lane, continue on, and one of the best in the business, I think, at doing that. And so to see him pass Klein on the outside, definitely a nice move, and we saw kind of what he was struggling to get by Dawson Cox with, that speed down the backstretch. Naima Lang was able to speed up and pass by Klein down the backstretch.
I was watching in cockpit there on Naima how solid, how calm his hands were. He was only having to give the car a little bit of turn coming into the corner. Coming out of it, he'd bring it back straight. Same thing going back into the corner. So he's got a really nice handle in race car right now. If he continued to make the speed that he's doing, as we are third of the way through, 25 in, 50 to go. Wanat has been your dominant car. Holm 2, Stanford 3, and you're watching your quick qualifier and now 4th place. Naima Lang in the 18 get away from Casey Klein and try to close up on the gap between himself and Thomas Stanford.
And we see Stanford now kind of close that gap between himself and Caden Holm. The last lap through, Caden Holm coming off of turn number 4 got a little bit loose down the front stretch, able to recover and still hold on to that second spot, but what that did was allow Thomas Stanford to close that gap that much more, and we see them now coming into turn number 3 and 4. But, where they had that separation, now Thomas Stanford right on the back bumper of Caden Holm.
Wanat has lapped, I believe, Cottrell's 10 car at this point, and closing up on more slower traffic. The more slower traffic you can put between yourself and the guys chasing you, the better, as that should be Chase Gardner's 32 that he's coming up on next. So your leader, Donnie Wanat, now officially into traffic. Gardner opens up the bottom for him coming off of turn number 4. And as soon as Wanat can get there, he should have a free lane to pass him, as they will alert Chase that, hey, leader's coming, give him some space, and he will do so going into the first corner.
And it looks like maybe the same thing just happened again, but impressed by Caden Holm, able to still hold off Thomas Stanford in the 19, but once again maybe having a little bit of troubles there coming off of turn number 4, that exit out of 4, but as he continues, we see him here still holding off the 19 car. Great view there in between turns 3 and 4, but we'll see if he does it this time by as he comes out of 4 one more time. It looks pretty smooth there for the K9 of Caden Holm, so just trying to keep pace with that 89 of Donnie Wanat.
Good corner exit that time for Holm, but Stanford sticking right with him, less than a car length in behind him as they exit turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. And you can see Stanford has more forward drive than the K9 getting into the corner. The door opens, he steps his foot through it, and new second place Thomas Stanford here as this race approaching halfway.
And look how close now the 18 of Naima Lang is. So Caden Holm now going to be dropping to 3rd, but Naima Lang now right back up with that group of 2nd and 3rd, trying to keep pace with the K9 or even gain some ground a little bit here as we see how quickly he's been able to come up to that top 3 competitors.
Stanford to 2nd, Holm 3rd, Lang rapidly closing, looking for a podium position here as that gap has gotten very, very slim. Holm with Lang behind him, a situation that he's seen a couple of times here on the season. The question is, can he hold him off as they roll through 1 and 2?
So there's Naima Lang once again getting by the 32 of Chase Gardner as they come out of 2 and at the backstretch, and still trying to catch up there to the K9 of Caden Holm. Great view there of the 19 of Thomas Stanford coming into 3 and 4, and looks like Caden Holm going to be able to tuck down and hopefully, at least for the time being, hold off the 18, but once again getting loose out of 4. So it's been an issue exiting out of 4 for the K9 of Caden Holm, and once again, same thing happened that time by. That's going to open up the door for the 18 of Naima Lang to catch up.
And there's just not much you can do mechanically to work these cars into a tighter situation other than change your brake bias. As Lang going to dive to the inside, he's got the lane on Caden. Caden has to exit up high. If Lang can keep down low going into the first corner, you think he's going to be in a position to complete the pass. Into the turn they go, and I think you can bookmark Naima Lang for position 3 exiting turn number 2.
And like you said, Caleb, it's interesting because maybe it's just, like you said, something with the car, but it seems to be this continuing problem, and he's able to recover, but not before the 18 of Naima Lang able to pass by.
So Lang gets by for 3rd. We've got to take a timeout, but we're going to have more. Don't touch that dial. You've got more Speedway Chevrolet Pro Late Model Mark Galloway Shootout main event coming up next on Home Track Heroes. Well, you are cruising around in car with Chad Fitzpatrick up in the upper left corner of your screen as we watch the driver he's trying to run down, and Casey Klein in the bottom right-hand corner. Welcome back to Home Track Heroes. He's Greg Pyland. I'm Caleb Hart, and you are now at the halfway point of this Speedway Chevrolet Pro Late Model main event, the Mark Galloway Shootout for the Pro Late Models. And your current top 3 unchanged: Donnie Wanat, Thomas Stanford, Naima Lang, 1 through 3 positions as we speak.
So, yeah, great view here from Chad Fitzpatrick inside the car here as they come down the backstretch. And you just get, I think, a beautiful view of how nice this 5/8 oval is. The track looks great. It's so nice to see these cars out here for the first time. But awesome to see the Pro Late models out here for the first time on the 5/8 oval. And Chad Fitzpatrick doing well, trying to keep up as we'll take a look back to K9 Caden Holm. He's currently sitting in that 4th spot with the number 1 of Casey Klein sitting in 5th right behind him as they head down the backstretch into 3.
Holm had just lost the 3rd position right before we stepped away to commercial break, and now 4th and 5th bearing down on, or sorry, 5th and 6th bearing down on him quite rapidly. There's those 3 cars in succession. So this is a 75 lapper, 36 more laps around to go, and outside of a early lap lead from Fitzpatrick, it's been Donnie Wanat the whole way. He is a long ways away from 4th, 5th, and 6th. However, 2nd and 3rd are starting to close the gap on Donnie out in front of this field.
You know, we talked about it earlier on in this race, how much of a lead the 89 of Donnie Wanat had built for himself. And like you said, then starts to be a little bit of shift up. You start to see some of the normal names we're used to seeing on the podiums, the 19 of Thomas Stanford, the 18 of Nama Lang, and now slowly but surely eating away at that lead that the 89 of Donnie Wanat had over Caden Holm and had over Casey Klein. And so now Donnie's got to be a little bit nervous there. Thomas Stanford goes a little wide into turn number 3, but he's definitely noticing there's a couple of cars coming right on him.
Interesting thing, too, as far as this race goes, is the timing of the race. You mean that the Pro Late Models almost always run last on the card. Sun is down, dark conditions, cool racetrack. Here with the Super Late Models on the card as well, Pro Late Models going first. That way some of the drivers who are doing double duty have time enough to turn the car around for the Super Late main event. That means warmer racetrack, different sunshine conditions, and different setups they may have in the car. You definitely are going to make an air pressure adjustment. That's going to make the car handle significantly different as if you were running at night. And I wonder how much any of these drivers in the top 3 are dealing with that right now.
When you know, the other thing I think about, too, for a 75 lap, Caleb, is are we going to be looking at somebody like a Donnie Wanat who has put so much, effort into leading this race early on, and is there going to be enough tire wear that's going to allow somebody like a Thomas Stanford or a Nama Lang to be able to come up towards the end of this race with maybe the 15 laps to go when they start to push the car a little bit harder like Wanat has been doing this whole race?
Interesting enough, I wish I had a stopwatch on me. I can't tell if it's actually Wanat fading or Stanford getting stronger right now. Yeah, I've seen Donnie slip a little bit mid-turn a couple of times, but really to me, it looks like the 19 car is coming on more so than the 89 car is fading.
Yeah, looking really good there. Thomas Stanford in the 19 car now a few car lengths behind the 89 as they come down the front stretch into 1 and 2, and right there along with them the 18 of Nama Lang as they come out of 2 and head down the back stretch. But like you said, that gapping just continues to shrink as the 19 of Thomas Stanford coming up on Donnie Wanat.
This time by, it'll be 30 to go, so if you want to do easy math, half a mile and change per lap, 15 miles plus of racing left here around Evergreen Speedway at the big track, and the gap rapidly shrinking between the wily veteran, the very successful Donnie Wanat, and the 19 of Thomas Stanford. And Stanford now just a couple of car lengths in behind Wanat. We'll turn our attention to 4th, 5th, and 6th again as that race getting closer between the car just in the front of your screen, the K9 of Caden Holm, and his pursuers Klein and Fitzpatrick. Back to the front, Stanford closing in again.
Yes, and here we go, seeing just cross the start-finish line. And once again, we kind of have been seeing Thomas Stanford. He's been doing it in 3 and 4 as well, but he's kind of coming in a little bit faster into those turns and kind of has to go a little bit wider into that middle track. Donnie Wanat still trying to hold on the low side, but Stanford looks like he slowed down a little bit. There he goes a little bit wide into that middle lane, so we'll see. Obviously, it's something that's working for him right now because he is closing that gap between himself and the 89.
There is a vast difference, though, on the lane that you have to race to catch a guy versus the lane you've got to use to pass a guy as well. So it sure doesn't look like Wanat's opening up a whole lot of positions to where Stanford can get by him, although he might take his first run going into the bottom of turn 3 right here.
Yeah, it sure looked like Thomas Stanford was going to take a look on the low side down the backstretch, but he waits until turn number 3 and 4, and they are side by side coming out of turn number 4. Wanat still with the advantage, and Thomas Stanford is going to tuck behind as they come into 1, but what an exciting thing to see off of that. And here comes Nama Lang in the 18 car.
Make it a 3-car siesta for the top spot. Wanat, Stanford, Lang. Wanat last time it was letting Stanford get down half a groove lower than him in 3 and 4. This time a better corner for Donnie. Stanford drifts up, Lang right there looking for opportunity to dive underneath him as they roll into turn number 1 again.
And Nama just looks like he's waiting for the moment to strike, which might be right here. Just a good job there by the 19 of Thomas Stanford, able to come back down low enough to block off the 18 of Nama Lang to get on the low side in turn number 2, and we see how close he is to the 89 of Donnie Wanat, but he's going to go wide again here as we see get a little bit loose in turn 3, and now side by side is the 19 and the 18.
Nice move by Nama to get low, get underneath Stanford. I think Stanford might have just found something, though, rolling around in the middle of this racetrack. He looks fast. Look at that car come to life down the back straightaway to the inside of Wanat. He goes, new race leader into 3.
And there goes Nama Lang in the 18 car. He's going to now be side by side with Donnie Wanat as they come into turn number 4. But you're exactly right. Found something there in turn number 2 in that middle lane. Went a little bit higher than the 89 car, but shot out like a rocket down that backstretch and able to pass easily down the backstretch last time on the 89. And here comes Nama Lang trying to take him on the low side out of turn number 2.
Lang needs to complete this pass if he wants a chance to keep Stanford, because look at the distance that Thomas is already putting on. As he's opened up 3 car lengths on Wanat. Now can Lang get around Donnie so he can give full pursuit to Stanford. 23 to go, and Wanat, after almost letting 2 cars by, is back to locking down at least the inside lane going into the turns and making it tough on Nema.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, too, here, are we going to see the 89 or the 18 as they're now side-by-side down the backstretch, Nema Lang on the low side, Donnie Wanat on the high side into turn 3, but are they going to start to look to see what Thomas Stanford is doing, too, and maybe try and take that same pathway and have a little bit more acceleration coming out of those turns and be able to come down the front stretch and the back stretch, but Nema Lang completing the pass on the 89 of Donnie Wanat in the 18 car.
Yeah, that's going to be huge for Nema. Now the question is, can he mirror that same line that Stanford has? Does he have the car to mirror that line that Thomas is running? Because it sure looks like the 19 is picking up speed again, more so than the other cars ahead of him were fading. We're down to 21 to go, and the Thomas Stanford show continues. Lang to second, Wanat to third, and what's been a pretty consistent top 3 for a bit.
And you got to think, if you're the 19 of Thomas Stanford, the thing you wanted to see is Donnie Wanat holding off the 18 of Nema Lang for maybe a few more laps, right? Just allowing him to have that more of time to be able to get that advantage in front. But, you know, obviously Nema Lang does the thing that he does best and be able to pass by, and now he's going to be able to maybe keep things interesting there with that first and second spot.
Meanwhile, up front, Caden Holm, car getting stronger. He gets squirrely, and luckily enough, nobody gets into him coming off the corner. So caution on the racetrack. Tough break for Holm, whose car was coming on. He had reasserted his dominance over position 4, and then around he goes coming off the turn.
And look at the in-car view here from Chad Fitzpatrick. Very impressive for him to be able to make it by Caden Holm, not get into any trouble there, but unfortunate there for the K9.
Yeah, so Caden Holm's going to have to fire up and restart, provided that everything is still good to go, as we're getting close to the end here in our Speedway Chevrolet Pro Late Model main event. This segment brought to you by Speedway Chevrolet. Visit Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center in Monroe for customized trucks, lifted trucks, work trucks, and Speedway Chevrolet can locate the truck that fits you best. Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center also wants to trade and will buy or consign your vehicle or RV and take the hassle out of selling it on your own.
So really interesting on this restart here. We see the 19 of Thomas Stanford on the high side, Nema Lang on the low side, but with that restart, pretty impressive there by the 19, able to jump back to that lead that he had almost right before that caution came out. Nema Lang still a little bit behind there as they come into turn number 3 and 4, but great job there, taking that high side by the 19 of Thomas Stanford and able to capitalize on that restart.
In-car video from Dawson Cox trying to move his way forward on the field, and we have another caution out on the racetrack. Second time in a row for Caden Holm. So we'll come back with the finish of your Pro Late Model main event next on Home Track Heroes. You're tuned into Home Track Heroes here on the CW11. I'm Caleb Hart. He is Greg Pyland, and you're watching the Speedway Chevrolet Pro Late Model portion of the Mark Galloway Shootout. Glad to have you all in with us. Greg, this has been fun, but we're getting down to just a handful of laps left to go, and another 2x2 restart coming up.
Yeah, it should be really good here, and it looks like we're going to see Nema Lang on the low side once again. Thomas Stanford on the high side. Worked out really well for him last time in the 19 car. We'll see if it happens once again.
Nema super competitive on the inside groove and a very good restarter, so this ought to be fun as you're watching in-car from Greg Bennett, who's on the outside lane and going side by side trying to crack his way into the top 3. Stanford gets the good jump on the restart. He'll take over the lead once again. Lang in second, but third, heavily contested between that looks like Klein down low and Bennett up high.
Yeah, so Klein on the low side, Bennett still on that high side as they come into turn number 4 now, and the advantage to Klein as they come out of turn number 4 down the front stretch, but Bennett still holding firm in that spot as they come down the front stretch side by side into turn number 1. So it was nice to see after that early altercation on lap number 2, Greg Bennett obviously able to get that car fixed and now running strong here as he's side by side and just now passing the 1 of Casey Klein.
Digging hard and working his way back into third. This segment brought to you by Angel the Winds Casino Resort. They now have sports betting. Think you can pick a winner? Prove it at Angel the Winds Casino Resort, the only home for sports betting north of Seattle. Exit 210 off I-5 in Arlington. Well, I wouldn't have bet on the 98 driving his way all the way back through this field, but Bennett's got a really good car here today. Meanwhile, Stanford, good car of his own, unable to shake Nema Lang yet, coming into 17 to go, and that wide exit off of 4 might prove costly.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of sticking to that lane that you kind of made that comment on too, that was allowing him to get so much speed down the front stretch and down the back stretch. And Namalang just looking for any opportunity to go to the low side this time, going to tuck back behind just a little bit out of turn number 2, and we see Thomas Stanford able to take off down the back stretch. But really good here as we're going to see him do the same exact thing, but not leaving enough room for that 18 car to come on the low side.
That turn 3 shot gives you a really good example of where drivers are picking to pick up the throttle and acceleration zones. You can see Nema makes up his ground center corner when he's down lower on the racetrack and picking up the throttle, where Stanford's got to be out of it a little bit further. Stanford picks up the throttle a little bit deeper into the turn, although that was a much better turn for Stanford as he brought it down a lane, and Nema didn't make up nearly as much in the center that time. So we'll see if Thomas makes a little strategy adjustment, and it looks like he is. So Stanford, who was more willing to let the car get into the corner, float, pick up the throttle early and make a long straightaway, has adjusted now to lifting a little bit earlier. Lifting a little bit later into the corner, but protecting the bottom lane and not letting Nema make up as much ground in the center of the turn and possibly get a nose underneath him.
And your leader for roughly about 53 to 55 laps of this race, the 89 of Donnie Wanat, now in that 5th spot. So unfortunate to see him drop back. We saw in that last restart, he kind of got on that high side and had some cars that passed him on the low side, just stuck in that groove and couldn't get back into his spot after restarting on that 2nd row. But Donnie Wanat still holding firm in the 5th spot, but you got to think that he wanted a little bit more out of his day after leading so many laps.
Let me explain that a little bit in a different way, because I confused myself as I was going it. The earlier in the turn you pick up the throttle, the further out of the corner you're going to wash. So the sooner you get off the gas and then onto the gas through the turn to set it up, the further out on the racetrack you will push from center corner out. It looks like Stanford changed that in order to protect better on the bottom of the racetrack. So that's what I was trying to say. The first time on that one is there's Lang poking around to the inside again off turn number 2, but Stanford again, that change into more of a defensive line of the track seems to be paying off.
And you got to think who's right behind him in the 18 of Nema Lang, knowing that he is somebody that's able to pass so smoothly on that low side. Like you said, at this point he has to be defensive, right? He's leading this race. We have 12 laps, now 11 laps to go, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do to hold off that 18 car. But Nema Lang, we've seen him pass on the high side in this race, and so who knows what's going to happen as we see a great battle once again between Klein and Donnie Wanat in the 89 car as Wanat's on the high side.
Yeah, this has been a nice rally from Donnie going back outside on Klein. They are door panel to door panel through the corner as Donnie coming on a little bit stronger in the late race. Down to just 10 laps to go. Wanat back up into 4th. Nice job by the veteran to rally back forward.
Yeah, it's a great pass there, and it looks like Klein was trying to do the same thing and return the favor there in turn number 1 as Donnie Wanat was kind of in that middle lane as they went into turn number 1, but great recovery there by the 89, able to hold off the 1 car as we see Chad Fitzpatrick right behind Casey Klein as they come into turn 3 and 4. Back to your leaders, the 19 of Thomas Stanford, crossing the start-finish line, 10 laps now to go.
1 and 2 have a distinct little breakaway going. They're in their own little pocket universe there out in front of the field. Bennett all by himself, like the chess club president on prom night, right in the middle of the back straightaway. And then back from him, you can see Wanat 6-7 car lengths behind, but time enough. They'll have 8 to go, this time across the transponder loop, as the ticker will update in just a second. So it's Stanford, Lang, Bennett, 1, 2, and 3, and a ways back to Wanat, who is desperately trying to get back up to the podium.
And it looks like that the 18 of Nema Lang now starting to fall back a little bit of the 19 of Thomas Stanford. We saw just 3-4 laps ago how close he was getting, how he was right on that back bumper, especially coming down the front stretch into 1 and 2, and now backing off just a little bit as the 18 of Nema Lang as we have 7 laps to go. Thomas Stanford, either he's kind of just that much better right now on this track, or maybe that defensive tactic was working well and he's been able to kind of pick up the speed a little bit in the 19.
Interestingly enough, with the way that the cautions broke out, this race has never gotten into real serious heavy traffic. Yeah, a car or two, but Stanford really hasn't had to challenge himself navigating around slower cars, and don't expect to see that over the final 6. Also, tells you how good the back of the field is, as the back of the field's really picked up the pace and running it quick enough, good enough laps consistent in the race that Stanford hasn't caught him lickety-split, and traffic not going to be a factor.
Yeah, now just coming into turn 3, we're just about at the 5-lap mark here as Your leader goes into turn number 4 with a good advantage here over the 18 of Name Lang. Greg Bennett just coming into screen here as they come out of 4 and down the front stretch. But, you know, Thomas Stanford just looking so sharp right now. And he's not having to do kind of what you talked a little bit about earlier, but he is still building on that lead over the 18 of Name Lang as they go down the backstretch.
Yeah, that move, I think, has proven not to just be a good defensive move, but a good race line move in general as his car is developed. As Stanford opening her up with just 4 more times around, little over 2 miles left to go for the driver of the 19 cars. He looks to put a Mark Galloway shootout win on his resume, presented by Monroe Grocery Outlet.
And what a great one to get for the number 19 car. Such an amazing race, an amazing weekend here for the 2023 Mark Galloway shootout. And Thomas Stanford, as you said, like to add that trophy to the case here as he comes out of turn number 4 with the 18 of Name Lang. Still right behind him within striking distance, but now at this point, 3 laps to go. You got to think this has to be go time for the 18 car.
It'll be our second straight Mark Galloway shootout here on Home Track Heroes that's been won from relatively mid to deep pack starting position. Last year it was Garrett Evans climbing up from double digits deep in the field to get there with about 20 laps to go. Stanford started 8th here on the Pro Late Model main event, so he wheeled his way around some pretty darn good race cars to have this top spot. This time by, it is the double popsicle sticks, 2 to go.
So 2 to go here for the 19 of Thomas Stanford. Name Lang still lagging behind here as they come out of turn number 2. Greg Bennett still holding firm into that 3rd spot as Stanford now all the way down into turn number 3 coming around. We are going to see the white flag this time by as they come out of turn number 4 and down the front stretch. It is in hand, and here we go. White flag out, 1 lap to go.
At this point in time, every rattle, every vibration, etc. becomes magnified. If you're in the seat for Thomas Stanford thinking, did I tighten this nut? Is this bolt in good enough? Is it going to hold together? It's only going to make 2 more corners, and if it does, he has got this.
So there's Stanford now coming into turn number 4. Clear ahead for him in the number 19 cars. He comes down the front stretch, checkered flag in hand, and it is out. And the winner, the number 19 of Thomas Stanford.
Congratulations to him. Name Lang was second. Nice rally for Greg Bennett, who ends up in 3rd after the early race contact. And going to be interested to see all 3 of these gentlemen's thoughts. We'll head down to the Angel of the Winds Casino Resort Podium for winners' interviews.
All right, Greg, you had to pull the pits after that incident on lap 3. I heard you had a right front tire like this. Fix that. You flew back through the field. Walk us through that battle to get back to the 3rd spot.
Well, I'll tell you what, my son, he's been killing it trying to get this car set up. And I'll tell you what, you'll be able to drive it up there like that. And I'm just so happy to be able to get Foti on this thing after having to go back. It's not my MO anymore. Go to the back and have my way to the front. So pretty happy for tonight.
That number 98 car was fast as you made your way through the field. Navigating through traffic, as you said, your MO, what's the secret to that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's, we worked really hard on making the car drivable for me. And everybody who races the car, you can be fast, but it's a handful to drive. So to make it drivable the way we have, that's really the key to being able to just pretty good laps.
And lastly, in front of everyone here at the Mark Galloway shootout, who would you like to thank for your performance tonight?
3D hauling, security imaging, highway office supply, and my own company, BTC.
Driver of the number 98, alrighty, you're running both races tonight at the fast time in both. You had a blisteringly fast car, but what more did you need to get around that 19?
I got stuck in the back too long, and then when I got to the top side and the car wouldn't turn, my only mind was on the bottom, and I was just smart. He knew where I could go and he could go away. Good job to him. I'm going to thank my crew. I'm busting my butt the past 2 days. Second's not bad, but, you know, the first is probably nice.
Number 18 did really well. I do want to ask though, what happened there on those restarts on the inside?
I'm on the inside like that. I don't really have to pay attention to the outside. But he was the pole setter, and I got caught looking at him, and I kind of skipped the ship a little bit out sideways, but we made it.
Anyone else you'd like to thank for your performance tonight?
Yeah, for sure. JNR Truck, JNR Motorsports, Lang Motorsports, Tracy Neon Inc., and MJ's Oliver Transport.
Driver number 18, finishing second tonight, that's Name Lang. Thomas, when you took the lead, I've been running stats yesterday and today. And in the top 3, when you took the lead, there were 23 combined Galloway stunts. You made one of those. What is it like running from 2 drivers like that? That experience right behind you.
That's the beauty of race cars. Is they're all the same size and shape out there. But I love racing with Donnie and a bunch of these guys that were around here for years and years and years. And so it was our first time back this year. We raced here all last year. And so it was great to get back out there with some of these guys. We raced a lot last year. It's a lot of race, a lot of race team. And it feels good to be back. It's great to get 2 wins in a row by 5 games. That's hopefully we'll go for a great summer showdown. But thanks to my team, they busted their butts. We came contested 2 weeks in a row. Practiced all day yesterday, long day today. So I appreciate all the time they put in. I got to give a special shout out to my wife. It was our 5th wedding anniversary yesterday. We were all day testing, so I love you there for sure. I appreciate all your support. Being here. And shout out to all my sponsors, Having Good Construction. They're a big supporter of this. I finally got myself a good sponsor, so thank you to them. Liberty Yards, D.A. Davidson, New Else Upsburg, GC Street, Nick's Asphalt, Elmering Racing Media, Cross Livestock. It takes for me to do this, and we've got a really good one, so thanks everybody.
Awesome! I think we got one more thing for you.
Well, it might be the most important thing. Tony Stanford getting to write his name on the $5,000 check down there for winning the Pro Late Model portion of the Mark Galloway Shootout. Mark Stagg right down there for the check presentation. Give a round of applause one more time for Green Speedway Pro Late Model. Mark Galloway Shootout winner, Thomas Stanford.
Well, I've never seen a race winner fumble the check so much there, Vic. I mean, we make this big oversized check for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Make it,
you grip on it.
That's right, $5,000, big oversized check, easy to handle. Congratulations to Thomas Stanford on the Pro Late Model win. We move on. BECU Mini Stock main event coming up, 30 laps around the 3/8 mile. Your field looks like this. Zach Bristol, the Gourmet Latte 07. Oh, love that paint scheme on that car. And next to him, it's the Simon & Son towing number 16 of Travis Woodward.
Row number 2, the 26 of Jimmy Absher, brought to you by Absher Build LLC. On the outside, the 21J of Justin Brave, sponsored by Clean Crawls.
Row number 3, the PRCBD.com, number 221 of Lyndon Smith. Next to him, Gavin Ballou in the Reardon Engines, number 12.
Sponsored by PRCBD, it's the 18 of Brooklyn Bender, and sponsored by Crooks & King Barber Company, it's the 2 of Michael Fritz.
Row number 5, 72, Ronnie Absher, sponsored by U.S. Seafood. Next to him, it is going to be the 14 of Austin Kramer, sponsored by The Village Tap House and Grill.
Next up, it's a 27 of Jason Ingbaum, sponsored by Lewis and Maine Restaurant and Brewery in Monroe, and the 23 of Ellie Musgrave.
Final row, the Cookie Queen, Jaden Kelly. Special thanks to Kurt Hofstetter of C-Dub Auto Repair, sponsor on the 24, and Brian Bowman, the D&D Ranch number 98, making up your 14-car field.
So really exciting here to see, as you said, the 07 Zach Bristol, really sharp. It gives me like old school Seattle Sonics vibes with that color scheme. It looks good.
It's you're gonna have to help me here. Chad Little NASCAR with the John Deere tractor scheme is what I'm remembering here. Name from the past of super late model racing around the Northwest. Green flag is out, and unfortunately for Bristol, he didn't have Chad Little-esque speed going into turn number 1, as it's going to be Woodward getting the jump and leading down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and here comes Absher and Brave. Brave goes a little bit wide there, throws up a little bit of dirt down the backstretch, but Woodward in the 16 looking awful sharp here, as here comes the 26 of Jimmy Absher in that second spot, and Justin Brave in the 21J on the inside of Zach Bristol in the 07, able to take over that third spot for the time being. The 221 coming up real quick and in a hurry. And that's your man, Lyndon Smith.
Oh, boy. It is Kelly getting together with the 14, as we are going to get one more look. So Kelly's 24, 14 of Kramer. As let's take a look at what happened. Look out, two-wheel drive for Kelly. Back with more mini stocks next on Home Track Heroes. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us here on Home Track Heroes on CW11. He's Greg Pyland. I am Caleb Hart. BECU Mini Stocks just barely kind of got started before we already had a little bit of everything. Cars up on two wheels, who knows what else is going to come out after this. It's mini stock. Sometimes they surprise us with regularity. It is Travis Woodward now inside row number 1. The wild man, Jimmy Absher, right next to him. And heck, anything can happen with you got a Jimmy Absher party. So we're in turn number 1. The green flag is back out.
And Absher doing a great job on that high side as we see a little bit more contact, and there goes a wheel. Look at that.
Wait, what? Tire is not going to finish ahead of the car. However, I think Ronnie Absher is going to be a little substandard here going forward unless he can get that back up and going.
No, it kind of looks like a lowrider almost now for the 72.
Just creeping along,
yeah,
hanging out. I wonder if he even knows that the tire's gone. Caution is out. No, it's on you, Ronnie. Ronnie, it's your caution, bud. Well, I mean, it's clearly a front-wheel drive, so no big deal.
Yeah.
I'd let it go.
Keep racing.
Start calling him Ronnie Tripod Absher.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so here's the in-car video. Oh, God. Hey, you can't park your car there, Ron. You can't park your car there. From Engbaum's perspective now with the in-car, and big thank you to Brandy Hood Promotions and Thump Wheel Buy. Okay, weird.
You know, we're improving. Last time we went to caution, it was up on 2 wheels, and now we just lost 1. So, you know, we're working our way towards keeping all 4 wheels on the ground.
Listen, minimal improvement is still improvement. We'll take it. This segment brought to you by BECU. Boeing Employee Credit Union believes in people over profit. BECU, altogether different. BECU, a proud sponsor of our mini stock class, who are going 2 wheels in the air and 3 wheels on the ground, and hopefully this time a whole bunch of laps as Absher down at the bottom trading some wrap along with Woodward, and it's going to be Absher out to the lead this time.
Yeah, great jump there by the 26 of Jimmy Absher. You know what I love to see on that restart? The 98 of Brian Bowman got it 3 wide before they actually crossed the start-finish line, so that 98 car kind of looks a little bit like Tony the Tiger out there, but had a great jump up there. Didn't make up as many spaces as maybe he was looking to, but nice job there by the 98 as we see the 221 of Lyndon Smith battling with the 07 of Zach Bristol. Lyndon Smith able to get around, but everybody chasing the 26 of Jimmy Absher.
Absher out in front early on this one. In second is Woodward. Brave hanging around in the 3rd position. That's a driver in a program that has just been steadily improving over his number of years in the mini stocks. I think he's got at least 3, maybe 4 in at this point in time, and hunting around for his first feature victory. As your top 4 starting to string together and get awfully close. You can see a variety of different race lines being taken in the first corner, as well as these drivers trying to attack this racetrack and find the best way around.
And very competitive here early on in this race, as we see still single file at this point, but we see how closely the 26, the 16, the 21, and the 221 are doing right now. And Lyndon Smith now making a great move here on Justin Brave, but almost being held off there by the 16 of Travis Woodward, and that allows Justin Brave to stay in there with Lyndon Smith, but Smith has the advantage here on the low side as he comes up on the 16. And now Justin Brave going to be side by side with Woodward.
Yeah, Brave feeling confident going out to the middle groove and rolling his way forward on the outside of turn number 1. So Brave going number to number with Woodward. In fact, noses ahead out of turn number 2. Justin Brave might have found the magic potion to make his way around the outside of Woodward. Now coming up on Absher, who can be tough to pass.
And Lyndon Smith, I think, listened to you there because he saw Justin Brave, what he did going to the outside of Woodward, and now Lyndon Smith doing the same thing in the 221. And there goes Justin Brave to the low side of Jimmy Absher. So with the advantage now into turn number 3, it's the 21J of Justin Brave able to get around Jimmy Absher in the 26, and you have a new race leader in this 21J.
And there's a little rubbing his racing going on in behind him, as I think you saw front bumper cover of Lyndon Smith into the back of Absher coming off. Those 3 throw him under a blanket for second place between Absher, Smith, who's now decked out around the high side, and Woodward, who's faded back to 4th, gives second to Smith crossing the line. And into 1, he's trying to get the car down off the corner, and he's got room to do it now as he rolls down the back straightaway.
And that pathway to success right now looks like it's that middle to high lane, as we've seen a couple of passes now on that high side as we come out of turn number 4 with your leader, and a little bit of contact there with the 12 of Gavin Belu, it looks like, and so good job there to be able to maintain. But here's a great battle with the 16 of Woodward as Woodward now gets around the 26 of Jimmy Absher, but it'll be really interesting to see if the 221 of Lyndon Smith is able to stay with the 21J of Justin Brave as they come down the front stretch into turn 1 again.
Lyndon's been the dominant car in the division. He's got the most feature wins so far here in the class, but he's really not making up a ton of that ground in a hurry, is Lyndon. So we'll watch and see as this race continues to progress. Still on the early side, Brave leads over Smith with a decent little gap back between them to Absher in position number 3.
So Lyndon Smith coming out of turn number 2, like you said, not closing that gap. In fact, over the last couple of laps, probably expanding that a little bit is the 21J of Justin Brave, increasing on his lead as Travis Woodward still holding on to that 3rd spot right now. And we see the 26 of Jimmy Absher in trouble down the backstretch. I think that's going to be our friend, the 98 of Brian Bowman.
Oh, yeah, big smoke. And I believe to go with it, some fluid? I don't know. There might be a stripe going down here. We're going to get a second look at Bowman in the 98, who up in smoke off of turn number 3 and stopped down there in the middle of the corner. All right, from Jason Engbaum's in-car camera, let's watch and see. Oh, yeah, she's a fireworks show up there.
Yeah, just letting off a big old smoke show down the backstretch. So unfortunate to see for Brian Bowman there in the 98 car having some issues down the backstretch. But so far, lots of changes here in the leadership that we have out on this track. And it's really fun to see Justin Brave and now Lyndon Smith going back and forth.
We've had cars up on 2 wheels. We've had cars only on 1 wheel. We've now, I think, lost an engine as indicated by the big old patch of Speedy Dry, a.k.a. kitty litter amongst the racers. And now another double file restart with 18 laps to go here in this BECU Mini Stock Main.
So green flag out here once again, and once again it's a 21J of Justin Brave on that low side, trying to hold off Lyndon Smith. We see Jimmy Absher and Woodward going back and forth here as they're side by side, and now Lyndon Smith's going to get into some of that track dry, maybe having to slow down just a little bit there into turns 3 and 4, having some issues, and that allows Justin Brave to make sure that he's crossing that start-finish line first here on this restart.
It's a gigantic advantage for Brave. Look at where that Speedy Dry lane starts. It's right off the exit at turn number 2 and gets real thick going into 3, and that's where the right side tires, your grip tires, are going to be over, I don't know, the back half of this racetrack. So Smith, I think he's going to have to look at a different direction here. The Speedy Dry has got it's very gritty. It's not smooth. It doesn't come down. And so running on it is like running on 10,000 miniature marbles at times. The tires just don't hook the same way they do without it. And now you're showing it as Smith in danger of losing second to Travis Woodward.
And Woodward doing a smart thing, like you said, just sticking to that low side, trying to stick out of that Speedy Dry as much as possible into turns 3 and 4, and almost forcing Lyndon Smith. You'd think, like you said, at some point, Lyndon's going to have to make that decision to tuck back behind the 16, get out on that faster side of the track right now with that Speedy Dry down. But right now, he's kind of sticking to form, and he's right behind the 16. So now Travis Woodward in the 16 in that second spot.
You got to wonder if at some point in time, now the more you run the Speedy Dry over, the more of the fluid that it absorbs, but that also means you might be sloshing a little fluid around that it doesn't pick up on the track. So you got to wonder how long Smith is willing to, again, put those right side tires out in it. Eventually it's going to get better, but how much ground and how much speed are you losing in the fact while you try to run it around? He's going to exit off the high side of 4, try to slingshot his way around Woodward getting into turn number 1, but nothing doing there. Woodward knows, keep her down on the bottom, keep it secure, and make Lyndon try to drive around you.
And like you said, that 221 has been so fast this year with Lyndon Smith, and it's unfortunate to see him kind of get caught in some of those situations where he's going to lose some of that ground to Justin Brave. But Brave just out in front cruising right now as we see the 16 of Travis Woodward now starting to build some separation between himself and the 221 of Lyndon Smith as they come down the backstretch into 3. But it almost looked like, even though he didn't have to, Lyndon's still almost trying to tuck up into some of that track dry area, and you kind of wonder if that's the best lap lane to be able to take around this track to try and close that gap.
If he managed to get enough of that on his right side tires, he's going to have to run long enough to scrub it off, essentially, whatever that top layer of rubber is on it. And we're going to have a car around in turn number 2. The 2 car of Michael Fritz is pointed the wrong direction. Production staff telling me we did not get a good look at how that happened to Fritz. So we'll gather our breath and get ready. We're about 2/3 of the way into this BECU Mini Stock Main event. A little bit of everything is happening here in it, but Field going to gather up 2 by 2 for this restart, and anything can happen on these.
And Lyndon Smith's got to be happy about that caution flag coming out in the 221. He's going to be on the low side in row number 2. We're going to see Woodward on the high side. So the exact same thing, the opposite of what happened to Lyndon Smith the last time. We're going to see Woodward now going to be mainly stuck on that high side. We'll see if that track dry still poses a problem here as we are green flag racing here once again.
What a great start for Travis Woodward. He's making his bid for the lead on Justin Brave, and it's all for naught as the 27 of Jason Engbaum goes around, and once again, we did not get a good look at it apparently for our camera, so Engbaum going to fire off. He will spin the whirly-doo back to the back of the field. Second start, and you wonder if Brave's going to go to school on this one as Woodward got quite the jump on him.
He certainly did, yeah, and so you got to wonder if that inside track is going to be the best for him, but we've seen how well it's worked so far this race, and Justin Brave has been so fast in that 21J car. Once again, Lyndon Smith in row number 2 on the low side, Jimmy Apsher on the high side, Travis Woodward on the high side of row number 1. As we come out of turn number 4, looking for the restart green flag once again.
It's a better start for Brave, but still not an abundantly good one, as they are about even Steven at the apex of the corner now. Brave and Woodward still even going into turn number 3. In fact, looks like Woodward might just be a half a nose ahead. We'll see what happens off the top of 4 as you've got your top 4 tightly packed up at the front of the field.
And certainly it looks like the 221 of Lyndon Smith now starting to get a little bit of an advantage as Justin Brave able to get out in front. And there goes the 2 once again. Michael Fritz down the backstretch. Looks like close to the barriers there, but gets spun around down the backstretch. So unfortunate there for the 2 of Michael Fritz.
He just wanted a closer look at our lovely portable toilets that we have staged in there. Pit staging a little bit different when you're using the 5/8 and the 3/8. And hey, we need portable toilets right there. And maybe Michael had an emergency.
Maybe you wanted an autograph from Naima Lang, who was sitting right there in that picture too. So maybe you had to hop out real quick, get an autograph.
I want a Naima Lang autograph right now. That was a smart idea by Fritz. So we'll go single file this time, as we just haven't been effectively getting these double file restarts up and going. Green flag out again. It's Brave, Woodward, and swinging way high, looking to make something happen. There's Lyndon Smith of the 221. Can he do it?
Yeah, that was a interesting line to take there for the 221, and nearly I thought it was going to work really well for a second, and now he's side by side with the 16 of Woodward as they come into turn number 4, and so looking pretty good there for the 221 of Lyndon Smith, who looks like maybe just has the edge. Nope, that time it's still going to be the 16 of Travis Woodward.
If that speedy dry has dried enough and he can get the dry tires through it without losing anything, doesn't look like he slipped. Oh, there it was. Jumps up to bite him, is right in the mid corner. The car unhooks, and oh, look, where there's more smoke. That's bad. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah, unfortunate there. The 26 of Jimmy Apsher, as we saw that Lyndon Smith just got loose in that track try on the high side of turn number 4, and Jimmy Apsher not able to get out of the way of the 221 who was spinning out there, and just big contact there out of 4 down the front stretch.
Ellie Musgrave's 23 involved as well to a stop. So Absher with broken pieces of race car and fluid. Oh boy, look at the fluid coming out of that. Right down the front straightaway. That'll have to get cleaned up, and let's take a second look at how it all went down.
And it just started there in 3, like you said, where all that track dry was, and Absher obviously coming so much faster as the 221 of Lyndon Smith got loose, and just not enough to be able to stop before that contact.
So let's take a look, and you can see right front tire got into the speedy dry. Back end starts kicking around. He is trying like heck to save it, and gets the little shot that finishes her off. See Musgrave spinning to avoid. Nice evasive driving from Brooklyn Bender. From the speed cam now, this is going to be painful. Ooh, bye-bye speed cam. All right, this race has had a little of everything. A little. We took out the speed cam. We've blown motors. We've spun out and spun dry. We've been on 2 wheels. We've been on 3 wheels. And now we're going to a green-white checkered finish. I'd say it's legend. Wait for it. No, wait for it. Off of corner number 4. Back to green. Dairy. As they come down the front straightaway, Brave, 2 more laps to lead for his first career win, and you can see all the speed drive that's been put down on the front stretch. It's like racing in a blizzard, only it's in the late summer, midsummer. Weird. Just weird.
And you see the 26 Jimmy Apsher able to get things fixed, so he's able to get back out there, but Justin Brave keeping things straightforward, white flag out, so Good job there, but as you said, it almost turned into a little bit of a drifting competition here as they come down the front stretch.
You know, I've never been snowmobiling before, but I have to imagine that's like what running behind another snowmobile does. They're 3 wide on the final lap coming through. Hey, congratulations, Justin Brave. You have won a wild BECU mini stock main event. That's Woodward in second and somebody in third. We'll find out. Let's go to the podium and talk to your top 3 here at Evergreen Speedway.
All right, Brooklyn, you drove that number 18 real well today. Came home with a 3rd place finish. I mean, how's it feel doing it in front of the Mark Galloway shootout crowd?
Pretty good.
You're leader of the Rookie of the Year standings right now for the mini stock division. Think you got what it takes to hold on and take that home this year?
Definitely.
Who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
I'd like to thank my dad, my Uncle Wayne, Dave, PRCBD, Joe's, JBR, Image Auto Body, Art by Nature, the Jack Stillwell family, Pro Alliance, Wagley Creek, 2.5 Men Barbecue, and Stride Line, the most comfortable sock in the world.
Driver of the number 18, that's Brooklyn Bender, 3rd place tonight for the mini stocks. Consistently, you have been good behind the wheel, the number 16 this year. What's the secret to making this thing work?
Oh, there's a lot that goes on with this car. Travis Blackwood came out, helped me out today. Grandpa with the motors. Today was a rough day, but we figured it out, and we had it for the main.
Sounds like you have a great team behind you. Is there anyone else you'd like to thank for your performance?
I'd like to thank my wife. My daughter just had ACL meniscus surgery, so she came out, and she's suffering it here. There's so many people. I don't know if I can remember them all right now.
Well, driver the number 16, that is Justin Brave. Justin, watching that mini stock race, really the one thing that stuck out to me, you had full control over that number J21. Is that just practice, or is there something special to that car?
Probably both. I've gotten really used to this car. It feels great. The setup was amazing. Sliding around a lot, but at the same time, it was just hooked up. It felt amazing, corner great, and huge thank you to my sponsors, Clean Crawls, J2 Racing, Pace Engineering, Central Welding, Craig Rose Race Shop, Eden Gay Farms, Ben for the amazing motor work, and my brother for coming out to help us, and of course my mom and dad for all the amazing support and love they give me. I couldn't do it without them.
Race winner for the BECU Mini Stocks, that's the J21 of Justin Brave.
Well, after all that fun we just had on the 3/8 mile for the BECU Mini Stocks, let's stick with it, enhance the cars a little bit. We'll go to the Tire Pro Street Stocks. We'll stick on the 3/8 and we'll give them 30 laps. What you say?
You know, I love that. We'll see if there's just as many cautions or hopefully a few less here as we go into our Tire Pro Street Stocks. On the front side, we have the 69 of Austin Camp, sponsored by Ad Taxi. On the outside, the 22 of Kenny Erickson, brought to you by AFC Forestry.
Row number 2, Mike Shimmick. Car number 7, sponsored by Big Block Brewing. And the 85 of Jim Foti, sponsored by Trademark RCS.
Sponsored by Stingray Auto Repair in Redmond. It's the 03 of Blaine Fagerly. On the outside, the 06 of Steve Potasic, sponsored by Lang Autosports.
Row number 4, SCE, Snohomish County Trucking and Excavating, sponsors the 28 of Gene Watson. Next to him, Doug Poyer, the Ox Chassis, number 57 car.
Next row back, it's a 51 of Jeff Watson, sponsored by SCE Snohomish County Trucking and Excavating. On the outside, the 41 of Mark Hubbard, sponsored by Interstate Batteries.
In the 43, Chevy Vincent Siskin Power Equipment sponsors that car. And next to him, it's the 17 of Billy Decker.
And finally, leading up the back of the pack, the 34 of Sheridan Vincent, sponsored by His Wallet.
Hey, we got both Vincents in this one, stacked up one row. Father, son are going to get after that. Sheridan's the dad, Chevy's the kid, I think. If I remember that right. I don't know. I'm not good with family sometimes. Green is out, in through the kitty litter on the front straightaway. And this segment, of course, brought to you by Tire Pros, the official tire dealer of Evergreen Speedway. Tire Pros, your one-stop tire retailer where honesty is the best policy and they have a hassle-free guarantee. Tire Pros has all the national brands and offers a nationwide warranty on your tires. Go to TirePros.com. leaderboard.com.
And just a great look at a couple of Watsons there, too, as we go back. Your leader right now, it's a 69 of Austin Camp. We have the 85 of Jim Foti in that second, third spot here as he's side by side with the 22 of Kenny Erickson as they come out of turn number 4 and down the front stretch. But nice job by the 69 Austin Camp leading this group early. And like you said, still a lot of dust coming up on these cars here as they struggle to make sure they can see as they come into turn number 1.
Yeah, you can tell how bad the visibility gets when they're running in and through that. So these drivers are going to have to, I don't know, close their eyes for a second, go please, 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 please. And so far they've all made it. It's been nice.
So back in that 4th spot here, we see the challenge, and it's the 57 making a move, Doug Poyer. And that was on the 06 there of Steve Potasic. So great move there by the 57, able to pass on by. That's Poyer now in that 4th spot, back behind the 22 of Kenny Erickson. Still Jim Foti in that 2nd spot, and the 69 of Austin Camp in 1st as we come across the start-finish line now. 4 laps down, 26 laps to go.
It's a long race still to go, but they'll go quickly here as you ascend up to the big old V8s. A lot of Camaros here in this field, primarily chassis and body combination for the street stock class. There's the 57 of Poyer, who, as the last check, was a non-Camaro guy, Ford guy, if I remember correctly. As he continues to work the low side, he has passed up Erickson and up into 3rd.
You know, I like going against the grain here, working well for the 57 of Doug Poyer. As he passes by in 22 of Kenny Erickson. Jim Foti, though, in the 85, looking awful sharp here, but Doug looks like he is coming in awful fast down the front stretch as they come into 1 and 2, but Foti still holding off as Austin Camp in the 69 just out of frame right now as they come into it here into turn number 3 and 4, but Austin Camp looking awful sharp in the 69 car down the front stretch.
You know, one of the things that we're looking for in the race car as far as the mechanics of the car go is balance. You kind of want to see all the corners of it, making a contact patch. Yeah, you're going to have some weight distribution and some cross weights that you're working on. But get a look at the 57 of Poyer when he comes into the turn next time. I'm assuming we'll get this same turn 1 shot. That car is over on the right front a lot. It can have its advantages over a short run, but that does put a lot of strain on that right front tire, a lot of stress on it, and I wonder, given all circumstances, how long the speed and the setup for Poyer is going to last with him having so much weight on the right front of that car at the entrance of turn number 1.
And, you know, we see down the front stretch and into turn number 1, a lot of that track dry looks like it's been pretty much, you know, run over enough that it's not making any kind of a consequence to these drivers. But still in turn number 3 on that high side, we're still seeing leftover from that BECU mini stock race. There is still a little bit of track dry that's kind of sitting up there. You kind of wonder, too, as we're coming down into the latter part of this race, if that's going to impact anybody that tries to go wide into turns 3 and 4, and we have maybe something that we saw in the end of that BECU mini stock race.
We're a third of the way in so far, and so far, so good. Where they're crossing on the front straightaway, they're not super sideways. They're not putting a lot of stress on the car, so at this point in time, I don't think it's kicking them cattywampus. But like you said, it is still pretty prevalent. You just saw Poyer right side tires into it, and right side tires into it in the middle of the corner as he drifts back a little ways from Foti at the 17 laps to go mark, 18 laps to go mark.
Yeah, and so the 57 Doug Poyer still trying to keep pace with the 85 of Jim Foti as we take a look back to the 22 of Kenny Erickson, the 7 of Mike Shimmick, as they come down into turn number 3. So Kenny Erickson still holding up there, currently sitting in that 4th spot. As we look back to your leader, the 69 of Austin Camp, still leading this group as we're single file out of turn number 2.
That's the best run we've seen Camp have. He has been very strong in front of the field, and Foti looking good in second. Not two drivers that we've talked a lot about at the front of the field, as there's Shimmick in the 7 car, the former Ted Lindgren machine, working to the inside, and he's working for a top 5.
Yeah, nice move there by Shimmick as he is side by side with Erickson now into turn number 2 down the backstretch in the 7 car. And just about fully clear, but once again, Erickson now going to have to be on that high side. He's going to have to slow way down into turn number 4 as maybe still a little bit of complications with that track dry, and that allows the 7 of Shimmick to fully pass in for that spot ahead.
Yeah, look how much space he made on Erickson just over the course of one set of corners. Meanwhile, for the lead, Jim Foti feeling froggy, just about hops to the bottom of turn number 3. Can't quite make the pass, but Camp knows he's there now. So Camp knows that Foti will come up and at least use that front bumper cover as those two down the back straightaway just over the halfway mark of this feature.
And on that pass through in turns 1 and 2, it looked like Camp was pretty much saying to Foti, if you want to pass me on the low side, you're going to be driving on the grass, because he was hugging the low side of that track in 1 and 2. And it looks like the 69 car going to do the exact same thing as Foti, still trying to creep in, find any kind of available spot, but nothing having there for the 69 of Austin Camp, doing a great job blocking the 85.
Off the fourth corner, this race, considering how chaotic the last one was, has been relatively well behaved. Foti's got a nice look. 2 wheels down under the white in turn number 2. Camp's going to get by him, or at least keep him behind him down the back straightaway. But Jim Foti is trying to find room, and if he can't find room, trying to make some space to get around Camp.
And he certainly continues to try that, and he's going to do it here once again into turn 1. And it looks like just not able to keep the pace here as he's nearly up alongside the 69 of Austin Camp. But Camp now is getting maybe a little bit slower there as he's on the outside out of turn number 4. And Jim Foti on the low side looks like he's going to have the advantage now. Out in the lead is the 85.
Camp gave him way too much room getting into turn number 3 when he may have been clear enough to get to the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to fight for it in the high groove, but Foti's got the preferred line around the racetrack. Camp, a good run off the top, will not seat it easy, but Foti, the big run in the bottom of 1, definitively your new race leader now.
And great line there by the 57 of Doug Poyer as he's going to follow Jim Foti in that 85 machine as they come into turns 1 and 2 that last time by. He's going to be side by side. Nice look inside the 7 of Mike Shimmick, as Shimmick's still sitting in that spot just behind the 57 of Doug Poyer, but Poyer doing a great job there, passing by and just cruising along with the 85, and that's going to make him clear.
Shimmick doing exactly what he's supposed to. The lane opened up on the bottom, just follow the train around. As you can see, the tire smiley on the door of Camp of the 69. Camp, he's had a really great race, but he's got to get off the top side. He's got to get back down into the bottom because he's now lost 4 positions and almost 5 as Watson parked 2, driving hard to his inside.
Yeah, so Gene Watson able to get by in the 28, and now the 51 of Jeff Watson also able to pass by the 69 of Austin Camp, and it made such a big difference after Jim Foti was able to get to the low side in turn 1 about 2 or 3 laps ago, and look how far back Austin Camp has fallen just because he can't get back down on that low groove of the racetrack.
It's a rough way to finish this for Camp, who had such a good race out in front, but the way this field is stacked out, step out of line, and he got trained. Meanwhile, we're down to 5 laps to go, and it has been forever since Jim Foti was in victory lane here at Evergreen Speedway, and boy, he's just 5 more times around, make it 4 this time by for picking up what's going to be an awfully popular win if he can bring her home.
Looking really smooth there is Jim Foti in the 85 into 1 once again here. Coming up maybe on a little bit of lap traffic here. We'll see if that's going to impact the 85 as Doug Poyer now falling back just a little bit in the 57. We saw how quickly he was down that backstretch, though, able to close the gap into turns 3 and 4. But Jim Foti looking awful sharp here as he crosses by the start-finish line. Now 3 laps to go.
Puts a lap on Decker, who moves well out of the way for 3rd. Watson to the inside of Shimmick driving hard. He's got a nose on him up to the door. Shimmick's got to give him the lane going into the corner, and Shimmick might get picked off by the slower car in the outside groove, so bad timing for Shimmick to be caught up high as Watson going to overtake him and have the spot off the bottom of turn number 2 and move into the top 3.
Nice job there by the 28 car of Watson, able to pass by Shimmick as once again the 17 car there, Billy Decker, doing a nice job staying in that high groove, and there's an issue in turn number 4.
Everybody keeps going, though. Green lights stay on. It cost Ptasic a bunch of positions as Shimmick started going around and might have got some help. We're down to 1 lap to go, and actually we're coming to the checkered. For the first time, or basically for the first time since Moses parted the Red Seas, your winner is going to be Jim Foti. Doug Poyer 2nd, give 3rd to Gene Watson. Congratulations to Foti. That's fantastic. So Foti gets the W for the first time in a long time. Poyer 2nd, Watson 3rd. Let's get a word from him.
All right, Gene, you dodged the chaos that you saw right there going on in the final lap. How'd you do it?
I don't know. I just kind of wanted to conserve points and just have a good run for the day and leave here with the points lead.
Well, that's what you should be doing now after tonight's efforts. Who would you like to thank for putting that car together?
Dave Lund, Doug Poyer, Stack Design and Construction, SEE, S&S Roofing, my crew, my wife for supporting me, and Junior Brookover.
Driver of the number 28, that's Gene Watson. Doug, you put together a great run in that number 57, battling your way through the field. Just barely couldn't get by that number 85. Do you think you could have had it with a few more?
No, the tires were wore out at that point. Jim ran a good race. He deserved the win. I'm glad he won. He's great to race with. Congratulations to him. It was just the oil on the track. I just had no more grip.
Who'd you like to thank for putting that 57 car together?
Dave Lund, Gene Watson, Jeff Watson, Bruce, Ed, Matt, Snap-on Tools, Ox Performance, and J2 Racing.
Driver of the number 57, that's Doug Boyer. You've said it's been a while since you've been up here. What does it mean to you to get the win tonight here at the Mark Galloway Shootout?
Oh, this whole bomber class is just so competitive now. It's really tough to get up here. And I appreciate all the guys have been congratulating me tonight because it's been such a long time since I've been up here. And I'd just like to thank all the people that have helped me. Special thanks to Trademark, Residential, Mark and Tara, Amber Vista, my wife, especially for making me stay in the garage until the car's done every week. Jay, who's been inspiring me to keep working on the car. My brother Dave, the whole Fitzpatrick crew, Chad and Sean, Jesse Jensen for helping me out, Dave Edgar, everyone that I race with, Dave Boyer, God, everybody I race with. They're all awesome people, man. I love them.
Driver of the number 85, a legendary car and a legendary figure, a legendary win for Jim Foti.
Welcome back here to Home Track Heroes on the CW11. Thanks so much for spending your Sunday night with us. He's Greg Pyland. I am Caleb Hart. It's time. The Mark Galloway Shootout presented by Monroe Grocery Outlet for the super late models to the track for 75 laps. First time we've seen the supers here on the season, Greg. And this is a good field of cars. It's going to be a good time, and we've got a very talented field to bring to you.
Absolutely, we do. We'll start on the front row. We have the 14 of Colton Price, brought to you by Northwest Boiler. On the outside, the 98 of Greg Bennett, sponsored by Bennett Design Construction.
Row number 2 is Logan Jewell. Jewell in the Chuck Jones Automotive, number 92. Next to him, it's Donnie Wanat, the 89W, sponsored by Northwest Builder Group.
Brought to you by Hartley Farms, it's the 34 of Scott Walker on the outside. Brought to you by Brock Rentals, the 12 of Trenton Moriarty.
How about this for row number 4 on the inside? The Apache Rental Group, number 63 of Cole Raz, one of the youngest drivers in the field. And then one of the most decorated Northwest drivers of all time, Garrett Evans, the 64, in the Leonard Evans Used Car Superstar entry.
Next row back's the 1 of Casey Klein, brought to you by Farmer Bean and Seed. On the outside, the 3 of Wyatt Gardner, sponsored by Red Tail.
Behind them, Hayden Pliabon, car number 55, Colwickie Driver Development, the sponsor on that. Name Lang, the 00, sponsored by J&R Truck Rentals.
Next up at the K9 of Caden Holmes, sponsored by Johansson Mechanical. On the outside, the 45 of Nick Beecher, sponsored by Kendall Auto Group.
Final row, Trademark RCS sponsors the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick. Dirt Cheap Sewer sponsors the 10 of Brian Cottrell. 16 cars, 75 laps, the Mark Galloway Shootout for super late models. A lot of these drivers bringing 2 cars to the track to compete, although there are a handful of drivers who said, all right, we'll change the tires over, we'll run the pro late out there and see how we can stack up. Well, power and handling close enough, green flag out, we're underway, and it's a great start for Price.
Yeah, Colton Price definitely with a big jump there. We're going to see if that stays here as the 14 is well ahead of the rest of the field here. The 98 of Greg Bennett, we see him starting on the front row on the outside all the way back, and there it is, start called back for the yellow.
That was a massive start for Price, and officials decided not quite fair and balanced enough, so we're going to reline them back up, re-go again, and you're hoping if you're in the outside lane that Bennett goes, because if that had stuck, boy, that outside lane's going to be in some serious trouble.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was, like you said, a great start there by the 14 of Colton Price, but you saw how quickly the 98 of Greg Bennett fell back there immediately.
So we'll give it a second try as 2x2 on the front row in car from the legend Garrett Evans in the 64 outside of row number 4, bringing him down on the bottom for the second try at the start. Price versus Bennett, and we're green.
And it looks like, once again, maybe a big jump there.
All right, outside lane, going to have to do some digging to make it up. We'll watch the in-car from Garrett as the field strings out. The segment brought to you by PRCBD. Swing by PRCBD in Arlington for all your CBD questions or needs for people, pets, and more. Go to prcbd.com and use the promo code RACE.
So Colton Price there with the early lead as he got that good jump out, as we see once again a really fun view from the drone. But big jump there by the 14 of Colton Price. Out in front all alone, the 92 of Logan Jewell.
And 34 of Scott Walker make up your front three in the running order. Yeah, inside line. Boy, you threw the dice down at the craps table and you came up hitting your number big time. You didn't crap out yet. Outside lane, going to have to dig and make up some time. But again, 75 laps around the 5.8. In a super late model, you can certainly do that. As Price stretching over Jewell here in the early going. Best battles for third, as it looks like that's Cole Raz already up trying to make a move on the field.
Yeah, it's a great move there, and it looks like the number 1 of Casey Klein there. We take a look at the red 1 into turn number 4 with the 55 of Hayden Plybon battling back and forth with the 1 car as they come down the front stretch. There's the 34 coming across the start-finish line of Scott Walker. As we look back to the 14 of Colton Price, still out in front of the 92 of Logan Jewell. And you know, we talked about Colton Price and his development so far this year and last year, coming up into a pro late model, now racing tonight in a super late model. But nice to see him doing well so far. You see if he's going to be able to hold off people like the 92 of Logan Jewell coming up in second, as Logan Jewell is coming up awful fast right now in the 14.
Yeah, Jewell's making up some serious time down the back straightaway. The lead that Price has been cut in half. That's for third. 34 of Walker, 63 of Raz, and Raz has got half a lane underneath him getting into 3, right back up on the back bumper cover, coming off of 4. So multiple distinct, very good battles. First, second, third, and fourth, and fifth and sixth is starting to roll in on them as well. As you get a look out on the track, the 1 is Klein, trying to pick up the car ahead of him. And that might be Plybon's 55 that's climbing up the field.
It is. It's 55 Hayden Plybon with the 63 of Cole Raz right in front of him. They're coming up on the 34 of Scott Walker, as Scott Walker in that third spot. And, you know, Caleb, you talked about it earlier as we saw the pro late models earlier on in this evening. You know, full sunshine, the track is a little bit warmer. Now we're starting to see the lights out here at Evergreen Speedway, a little bit cooler. It'll be interesting to see how this race develops as we watch that first race develop towards the end of the race with Donnie Wanat kind of losing a lot of ground towards the end. Be interesting to see how this race develops here later tonight.
We're in that portion of the year where we're in some of our longest days. We're right around summer solstice, right? So sunshine will be going down late. That means racetrack is taking the maximum amount of heat and sun during the day that you're going to see over any portion of time of the year. As down to the bottom and making the move on Walker. There goes Raz, and he's bringing Plybon with it. 2 of the young hot shots of the state of Washington and in the Northwest for super late model racing, and they are working their way up into second and third.
And unfortunate there for Logan Jewell in the 92, having some issues with that car. We saw him going awful slow down the front stretch into pit lane, and there's a look. It looks like still trying to get in, but that is the 92 of Logan Jewell trying to get his car off into the pit areas, having some issues there coming down the front stretch.
So Jewell, his race day by all intents and purposes finished. And now Colton Price, who thought he would have a position of pad between himself, Raz, and Plybon, is going to be forced to hold those 2 drivers off. And we are awfully early this time down. We're only 10 in, 65 laps left for Colton Price with some serious talent coming behind him.
And you talk about the talent of these 2 young drivers here. The 55 Hayden Plybon, last year the Summer Showdown, such a tough competitor, such tough racer out here on this 5/8 oval at Evergreen Speedway. And so, like you said, Colton Price probably maybe some of the last 2 cars that he wants to see in that review mirror coming down the backstretch.
And they are rapidly closing up on him. You can see that lead shrinking time after time as they work through turn number 3. Raz with Plybon right on his tail, and they have worked their way to, let's say, 4 car lengths of Colton Price. And Price, you know, the guy he's got in the spotter stand is telling him, all right, 7 cars back, 6 back, 5 back, and it's just a countdown of how quickly they're coming if he isn't watching the rear view mirror already.
Well, and it is nice to see him, though, too, from the, you know, winning the championship in the mini stock division and coming up to the pro late models. But at this point in the Mark Galloway shootout, we have Colton Price, who's now led 12 laps so far. It's really exciting to see his development and how well he's doing right now. But as you said, the 63 Cole Raz now just within knocking distance as they come down the backstretch into 3.
With a lane to work on the inside of Price. In fact, all the way up and through. Cole Raz going to make the power move into the bottom of turn number 1. New race leader and new second place, as Plybon going to follow him through.
Yeah, what a great move there by Hayden Plybon in the 55 white car there, passing by Colton Price in between turns 1 and 2, just kind of playing a little follow the leader with the 63 car there, but very easily making do of that pass on the 14.
Got to wonder if Price wasn't willing to push all that hard early on in this race, wanted to save something for later, knows, okay, if those guys are coming, they're willing to go a lot harder than I am right now. Let's let them go and see what we have for the back half.
Well, he got to watch. Obviously, he was in that race earlier this evening when we saw the Pro Late models and the 89 of Donnie Wanat leading so many of those laps, and how he started to tail off towards the end of that race. And I'm sure, like you said, maybe Colton Price is thinking, hey, if I kind of don't push it as hard right now, I still have a chance of maybe sticking it up with a podium here or staying close with these 63 and 55 cars.
It's funny. Late models can get a bad reputation for being caution fests, and here at Evergreen Speedway, specifically on the 5/8s, we get clean racing, so that yellow flag is not always guaranteed. Price might have to get back on it and make this run under green flag conditions and not have to wait for the benefit of a yellow to tighten the field back up, as Raz and Plybon running away from him and still stuck to each other like peanut butter and jelly down the back straightaway. I mean, it's a car length that separates the two of them, still 15, 16 laps into this race.
And it looks like that last time through turn number 4, Colton Price having just a little bit of an issue, got a little bit loose coming out of 4. Looks like that's going to allow the 34 car of Scott Walker to just ever so slightly encroach on that third place spot. We'll see if the 34 is able to pass by the 14, but back up to your lead pack, the 63 and the 55 maybe coming up on a little bit of lap traffic here, but Cole Raz looking awful sharp with Hayden Plybon just right behind him.
Hard to ignore the battle that's going on out front when they continue to be nose to tail coming off the corner with a little ways back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th, although that action back there for the final podium spot getting more intense 18 laps into this. Plybon looking for a path around Raz as they continue to pace each other, not letting either one get too far out or too far away, as they are working in amongst slower traffic, and slower traffic is getting the signal from their spotters and from the officials, hey, faster cars are coming, move out of the way, which is what they do.
And you got to think that obviously Hayden Plybon wants to be the car out in front right now, but he has to be pretty happy where he is sitting right back behind the 63 of Cole Raz. They are taking each other with, one another through this track and be able to put that much space between them and the 14 car. So I would imagine Hayden Plybon maybe at this point being a little bit cautious and saying, hey, I'm good with running second right now, and I'm going to choose my time when I'm going to be aggressive.
Meanwhile, for third, you saw how rapidly first and second got by Price. Price now fighting a lot harder to hold on to third, as that's Walker and Klein right in behind him, and Colton putting up quite the battle, making sure he doesn't slip back any further. As we're going to look in on Donnie Wanat. Ooh, look at the shake in the Wanat car as he gets into the corner. So Wanat working the low side of the speedway, and he's gauging by where Nema Lang is. I'm going to say like 8th to 9th at the moment on this running order, and still a lot of car speed for Donnie as well.
Yeah, and you see that 00, I think, in this one, Nema Lang here, right behind the number 1 car of Casey Klein. And yeah, like you said, Wanat, man, that is just tough right now as he's struggling through this track, but still maintaining pace and doing a good job. There's a 14 of Colton Price coming down the front stretch into 1, and it looks like the 34, once again, Scott Walker knocking on the door as Colton Price still trying to hold on and maintain that third place spot.
3rd through 8th, maybe 3rd through 9th, about ready to kind of stack up around this racetrack. Heck, make it 3rd through 10th, as it's Price in the 14, the black and orange car, the red and white 34 of Walker, the red and white 1 of Klein, then the 00 of Nema Lang in this race. Yep, 00 of Lang, the 12 of Moriarty, the 89 of Wanat, and they're all getting close enough that one of them makes a big enough boo-boo, they're all gone.
Yeah, and we see Nema Lang once again trying to make that low move there, not able to get around Klein that time by, and Colton Price still holding off right now. The 34 car sitting there is Scott Walker as they come down the front stretch, but great pack here as we see them very tight here with Trent Moriarty in the 12 car right behind the 00 of Nema Lang. But really nice to see this group in this competition here in that, 4th through 6, 4th through 7 spots getting ready to battle. And, Colton Price still holding them all off right now as we go.
There's the move from Nema. To the inside he goes, found the lane to get underneath Klein. Lang shuffling his way up to about 5th right now as, sun finally setting, lights kicking on as we're going to do Super Late Model Racing After Dark coming up in just about a lap or two. Down to the inside, Lang, the preferred line underneath Klein. Klein pushing to try to keep that position away from Nema, but Nema so strong, so smooth around the bottom, trying to nose ahead as they head into turn number 1.
And what a great just continued battle side by side with Lang and Klein as they are still continuing side by side down the backstretch. Klein a little bit faster down the backstretch. Nema Lang going to be on the low side into 3 and 4, and so with a slight advantage there, and maybe Klein starting to edge out the 00 here just at least momentarily, maybe a little bit loose there coming onto the front stretch, but still just a fantastic battle between the 00 and the 1.
Both drivers giving each other tons of space, a lot of respect between the two of them as they'll roll down the back straightaway again. Door number, even with door number entering the corner ahead of them, a fantastic battle for 3rd continues behind between Walker and Price, and this time it looks like Nema finally far enough ahead. Now let's watch and see if he's got enough run to stick his nose underneath Walker, but we're going to go look back at your lead, and those two cars about the same exact position they were before, just stuck to each other, rolling around Evergreen Speedway.
Just rest and repeat for Cole Raz and Hayden Plybon as they come out of turn number 4 down the front stretch. 1 and 2 now, 46 laps to go, as the 63 of Cole Raz leading this pack here into turns 1 and 2, but as you said, it didn't look like much change from the last time that we saw them as we go back. And Nema Lang having some issues there, getting loose. Not sure if there was any contact there, but the 00 able to recover well, still staying in front of Casey Klein. But Trenton Moriarty now all of a sudden right in that picture in the number 12 car.
And Lang going to recover from whatever happened there to get right to the inside of Walker for the position. So whatever boo-boo had happened in turn number 2, Nema Lang recovers quickly. There's your veteran Guile for you. He'll drive past Walker. Walker almost lost the spot to Klein as well. What a weird turn of events.
Yeah, very strange there. Now the 00 clear ahead of him up to that 3rd place spot as Colton Price still hanging on to 3rd, but Nema Lang charging hard. There's a 34 coming into 3, and the 1 of Casey Klein right behind. And so, like you said, very strange to see. We just saw the tail end of it with a little bit of a wobble there from the 00 of Nema Lang, but in the end, he was the one that had the most advantage coming out of that, able to pass on by now in that 4th spot.
I want you to keep your eyes in the back of that car line. Wyatt Gardner's just kind of been sneaking around behind Donnie Wanat for a little while, and Wyatt's a car that's had car speed. He was super fast in practice during earlier sessions, and then the legend, Garrett Evans, hanging out as well, waiting for his opportunity. As down at the bottom, there goes Lang. Lang's got 3rd away from Price, who got way too high in 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it almost looked like a lap car situation, which I know Colton Price obviously isn't a lap car at this point. He was hanging on to that 3rd spot, but it almost looked like he just moved aside and let the 00 go by as almost a nod to say, hey, you're one of the best out here, so I'm going to just let you keep on cruising.
Back in the field, a little side-by-side action as that is Wanat's 89 and the 3 of Gardner getting after it. So you're looking at 3rd place Nema Lang, and Lang's got a lot of ground to chew up before he can get up to your top 2. Not even in picture, your race leader Cole Raz and Hayden Plybon. But the racing has been awesome between 3rd through 10th, really, here on this line. There's always been something happening. Right now, that is 4th and 5th. The black and orange 14 of Colton Price and the red and white 34 of Scott Walker will resume their battle.
And still looking for the 12 of Trent Moriarty to make a move as we go back up a little bit further down the pack here. And there's the 63, your race leader, Cole Raz, still with the 55 of Hayden Plybon, but as they seemingly looks like pass by the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick, but car coming slow here out of turn number 4.
That is the 10 of Brian Cottrell. Cottrell going to work his way into the pit area as the leaders continue to cruise on by down the back straightaway, and you can see that gap between Raz and Plybon starting to expand, and it's a gigantic gap between 2nd and 3rd, Plybon and Lang. Going to take a timeout and come back. We will finish the Mark Galloway Shootout presented by Monroe Grocery Outlet next here on Home Track Heroes on the CW11. Well, this has been a thrilling episode of Home Track Heroes as always. Caleb Hart, Greg Pyland here on the CW11, and we are getting down to the nitty-gritty here in our Mark Galloway shootout for the super late models, and it's brought to you by Monroe Grocery Outlet. The segment brought to you by Monroe Grocery Outlet as we bring you back into action, and Scott Walker, who was running up the top 5, pulling off and into the infield. So we'll try to reset that for you as you're watching Trent Moriarty in the 12, working on Donnie Wanat in the 89. That is 5th and 6th, chasing the 1 car of Casey Klein. 3 car of Wyatt Gardner also involved in that battle.
Yes, Wyatt Gardner doing a great job there. He's back behind, but very competitive there with the 12 of Trent Moriarty. The 89 of Donnie Wanat now trying to look to the low side. Not enough speed there on the 1 of Casey Klein, as Klein is still going to hang on to that spot. But Donnie Wanat now, Wyatt Gardner going awful low into the grass. Sparks flying on the 12 of Trent Moriarty.
Grass is not a raceable surface, but Wyatt trying to prove us wrong. As you're watching this, to the inside goes Wanat. Nice run on Klein. Can he make it stick? They come off the corner, and Wanat in the super late model also looking for a pretty decent finish here. Door panel to door panel with Moriarty closing in as well.
Yeah, and it looks like Wyatt Gardner, who was challenging the 12 of Trent Moriarty last time around, had a little bit of issue there coming out of turn number 4. Now you see that separation, and so Donnie Wanat now clear of the 1 of Casey Klein. And here comes Trent Moriarty. Moriarty going to go to the low side, taking a play out of the book of number 3. Wyatt Gardner going awful low into turns 3 and 4, and Moriarty still side by side with Klein.
He'll muscle up and try to drive by Klein on the inside, and he's going to try to bring Gardner with him. Wyatt stuck the nose in. Couldn't quite get all the way by the 1 car, at least coming out of turn number 2, but Gardner will reset and take his shot coming out of corner number 4. This segment brought to you by Monroe Grocery Outlet, your locally owned neighborhood grocery store. They offer name brand products, fresh produce, organics, wine, and more at 40 to 70% less than traditional grocery stores. Shop them first and save. Monroe Grocery Outlet, the proud sponsor of our Superstock Figure 8 class.
And what a move there. Coming out of turn number 2, Wyatt Gardner on the low side, Casey Klein on the high side in the number 1 car. We saw him do the same thing that he did a few laps ago where he went awful low, sparks were flying, and they are still side by side in that battle, and it looks like the slide edge to the 3 of Wyatt Gardner.
He'll make it work through 1 and 2, drive away, and this is opportunity for Garrett Evans to come through. Evans, along with all the Knutson boys that are wrenching for him, looking for opportunity to sneak in, pick up another spot away from Klein, although Klein, who had been strung up out high for a little while, did a pretty good job of getting low, although look at the center corner push for Casey right there, and bye-bye, Garrett Evans knows opportunity when it knocks. He says, hello, thank you.
Yeah, not surprising to see the 64 of Garrett Evans make the pass as we go back out to your leader, the 63 of Cole Raz, still out in front of the 55 of Hayden Plybon now with a pretty substantial lead going down the backstretch. So the 63, we saw them earlier on in this race with that great battle for that first spot. Cole Raz continuing to hang on to that spot, but Hayden Plybon was within striking distance. Now you see how much of a gap that Raz has over Plybon.
He has methodically just marched his way through and built that lead, hundredths of a second, maybe a tenth of a second per lap over the long course around the 5/8. Meanwhile, we're going to look at Garrett Evans, who's starting to get awfully racy further back in the field. That car in very traditional Garrett style, getting stronger as the race goes on. Hang out for a little while, and then when you need to go, absolutely mat the thing and see what you can do.
So back in the field, we have the 00 of Naima Lang in that 3rd spot, Donnie Wanat in 4th. As we look back to your leader, Cole Raz in the 63 down the backstretch, coming up on a little bit more of lap traffic. So we'll see if this is going to be potentially an advantage here for the 55 of Hayden Plybon, as we'll see how quickly the 63 of Raz is going to be able to get around.
Raz coming up on a couple of cars racing for position. Casey Klein, that car's fallen off big time here over the last, say, 3 or 4 circuits, is up there in the top 5 and now getting lapped by Raz. Raz coming up on the back and trying to put a lap down on Colton Price, who is chasing around Chad Fitzpatrick as well.
Yeah, so unfortunate there, too, as we saw earlier on, and there's the move aside flag as we see the 63 of Cole Raz go to the low side of Colton Price and Chad Fitzpatrick, but there goes. It looks like Colton Price still has a little bit left in the tank, and he's going to make the pass there on the 12C of Chad Fitzpatrick. But we saw such a strong race out of the 14 car early on, but it's always nice to get some of those laps and that experience under your belt as well.
Unfortunately for Plybon, unable to take advantage of Raz amongst the slower cars, did really shrink the gap between him and your race leader, and we're down to 15 laps to go. You know, you break the laps, the race up into segments a lot of times. This is 1/5 of the race remaining. The tank's got to be empty at this point in time. You've got to be going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think the unfortunate part there is we saw the 55 Hayden Plybon able to get around Chad Fitzpatrick, but as Colton Price made that pass on the 12C, Plybon not able to get around Colton Price as quickly as maybe he wanted to, and we see the impact of that, and it's a 63 of Cole Raz with nearly at least a half straightaway back on the backstretch ahead of the 55.
You feel like so long as Raz hits his marks for the rest of the way and all of the nuts and bolts stay together, he is due for an Evergreen Speedway win here on the 5/8 mile as he'll rocket down the front straightaway again and move us to 13 laps to go for the 63 car. Raz, Plybon, Lang really hasn't been able to shrink the gap between Plybon and himself, so your top three just roll around by themselves, unfortunately, this time.
And even without some slower traffic, it just seems like Cole Raz is just moving methodically through this track right now and doing such a good job. Not that he's gaining that much ground right now over the 55 of Hayden Plybon, but you certainly don't see him making much of any mistakes here as the 63 just looks like he's on rails, doing awful good coming out of turn number 2 down the backstretch and looking awful sharp as we're just now at about 11.5 laps to go.
He's coming up on the back of the field, in fact, as you just saw the distinctive Evans blue 64 car right ahead of him, and that's racing for 8th, 7th, and 6th, I think, within the running order, so that shows you how good Raz has been, as there goes Garrett up to the high side on Gardner. Maybe it's vice versa. Maybe that's Gardner to the inside of Garrett. One way or the other, they're side by side for position ahead of your oncoming leader, who is just getting even stronger as this race goes on.
I think you were spot on. It was Garrett Evans passing by Wyatt Gardner, and now Evans in the 64 probably has his eyes set on the 12 of Trent Moriarty as your race leader Cole Raz in the 63 coming out of turn number 2, but nice move to the high side by the 64 of Garrett Evans, and now trying to track down the 12 car for that 6th spot of Trent Moriarty, make that 5th for 12 of Trent Moriarty.
So as this race continues to develop, you watch down, and there is your 3rd place car of Nama Lang as he shuffles Greg Bennett further in his rearview mirror. So Lang in the 00, we haven't checked in with him in quite a while, and again, you don't even see 2nd place in the screen for Nama. He's centered up in that shot. There's your leader. 2nd place is entering turn number 3. His name is coming out of turn number 2, so there's a full straightaway between them. This will be decided between those top 2 unless something mechanical happens.
You know, and you talked about earlier on in this segment too, where we were talking about the 63 and the 55, and you know, everybody out at Evergreen Speedway is so used to seeing Nama Lang completely dominate, and you know, could be a litany of different things. Maybe something's not right with this car, but you got to think how good the 63 and the 55 has been as we see Cole Raz coming up on some lap traffic. That's going to provide that opportunity to the 55 of Hayden Plybon, but you know, just so impressive to see the 63 and the 55 throughout this race.
Yeah, I think this is less of an indictment on everybody else's car and more of a, oh my goodness, how good are Cole Raz and Hayden Plybon here tonight? They're fantastic.
Looking awful sharp as we see Raz getting by the 3 there of Wyatt Gardner, so able to cruise on through, but you see all of that lap traffic that happened right in front of the 63 car, and look how much closer now Hayden Plybon is in the 55. He needs to still get around the 3 of Wyatt Gardner, but he certainly has made up some substantial amount of ground just because of that lap traffic, but now he needs to do that work to get around the 3 car.
He's definitely cut into some time now. Something that's going to play a factor is you've got Moriarty and Evans racing for position on the lead lap right now. I don't know that they would heed a hold your line, a move over flag. They would hold their line, but I don't know that they're going to move out of position, especially when Moriarty's in the top 5. This is a big position battle in front of Cole Raz. He's going to have to get around him. I don't think they're going to just give it to him.
And like we saw just a few laps ago, the 64 Garrett Evans trying to go to the outside like he did on Wyatt Gardner, trying to do the same thing on the 12 of Trent Moriarty, and there you saw the move aside flag. But as you said, I can't imagine the 64 who's going to try it once again, maybe to the outside of the 12 of Trent Moriarty, nearly side by side, now going to have to slow down, and here comes Cole Raz in the 63, able to get by Garrett Evans.
Man, that was good timing for Raz, as Evans just didn't have the run, and Raz put the car in the right place. Now Raz, with Moriarty coming up on him, and again, you can throw that blue and yellow flag all you want, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to listen to you. However, he's got the inside lane around him. Now Moriarty is going to be very mindful of Raz getting by. He's going to want to tuck it back in down low so Garrett doesn't snooker him getting into 3.
Yeah, and it looks like he was thinking just about that as they come down the backstretch into 3, but good job there by Moriarty to be able to block off the 64. But once again, looks like here comes Garrett Evans to the low side, nearly side by side now is with the 12 Trent Moriarty as that battle for 5th continues. And there goes Garrett Evans. Nice pass there on the 12 of Trent Moriarty.
And that's still a money position that they're racing for there in the top 5. And, you know, your discrepancy there between spots is enough to race hard for, even with 1 lap to go. And your leaders right on you as here comes the white flag. Cole Raz ahead of Hayden Plybon. Plybon, of course, getting stuck behind that drive behind him and really wasn't able to make up any group. This could be the first big Evergreen Speedway win for Cole Raz in half a lap.
Yeah, very exciting here to see as we see Garrett Evans separates your 1st and 2nd spots as Cole Raz coming into 3, working his way into 4, and now heading down towards the front stretch. And the only thing left to see is the checkered flag.
There it is. Mark Galloway shootout win. Cole Raz, the 63 car. 2nd, Hayden Plybon. Really good race for him. And just count the seconds. It's a little while. Nema Lang going to pick up 3rd. To the Angel of the Winds Casino Resort Podium.
All right, Nema, you drove through from 12th to 3rd. 2 podiums in one night. It may not be first, but you did a fantastic job out there.
Yeah, you know, it's tough starting that deep in the field, and you need a lot of lucky breaks to break free. I had to get stuck back there and race around everybody, and I wish I would have been up front and raced with them guys. You know, I don't get a chance to race with them very much, and congrats to them. Car was good. I was just kind of riding there at the end. I knew I couldn't catch him, so it is what it is, and I'm happy with 3rd. Good, solid weekend.
That it certainly was. Who would you like to thank? Well, I suppose thank again for this performance.
Yeah, J&R Truck Rentals, J&R Motorsports, Lang Auto Sports, and Tracy DeYoung Inc., and MJ's Auto Transport.
Driver of the number 00, that's Nema Lang. Good show out there. You spent a lot of that race chasing down that 63 car. You think if you had just a little bit more time, might have been able to reel him in?
I'm not sure. We were kind of staying equal lengths, but my car went a little tight, so I couldn't really get anything on him without having to overdrive my car, and it just didn't work out. So good notes, but still a fun race.
And you have experience with the Northwest Super Late Model Tour. Can we expect to see you back out here for the Summer Showdown?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
My crew that was here with me, my crew back at home, but mostly the crew here. The Kawuki Driver Development Program, Race Cows, Cascade Rain Gutters, Muffler Mart, Motorsports Monday, Angels Bail Bonds, Evergreen State Towing, and just everybody that supports me.
Driver of the number 55, Hayden Plybon, finishing 2nd tonight. Cole, I came here yesterday for the practice session, looking to get a little taste of what the drivers were like. You greeted me with a smile, and the thing you told me was, I want to be on that shirt so I can have it right next to my brother. Well, you've done it. You've become only the 2nd pair of brothers ever to win Galloway's, both of you. I mean, obvious question, what's it like?
It's pretty damn special, honestly. We've talked about it for a while. I'm so glad that the super late models are back for what a special weekend for Mark Galloway. It's so awesome we can still come out and have a memorial race for him. He's a special individual from what I've been told, and it's so awesome to have his family here, and it's incredible to have my name next to my brother's now.
You drove that number 63 like it was on rails around this speedway. It seemed like no one had anything for you. Can we expect to see that again for the Summer Showdown?
You know, I sure hope so. I mean, that's 2 in a row for this car, brand new. So we got a lot of work here to do to get better for the Summer Showdown. You know, we're going to have some stiffer competition, and this is going to give us a really good baseline going into that weekend. So, you know, we'll see. But I want to say a huge thank you to Apache Rental Groups. They just came on board for our team this weekend. And Wells Johnson, Master Wrench, Autotown Buick GMC of Gladstone, Oregon there. So any of you guys looking for new Buicks, GMCs, head on down to Gladstone, let them know. And Ernest Performance, Brandon Ernest is a phenomenal guy and has helped us out a lot with our program over the years. And we got t-shirts and hoodies down here in the pit, so come get some.
Think we got one more thing for you to do here. And Cole signs his name, winning that super late model prize. $5,000 to Cole Raz, winner of tonight's super late model race at the Mark Galloway Shootout.
Well, Cole Rouse puts his name on the big check, and that ends a fun episode of Home Track Heroes. Greg, are you ready to hear everything coming up on next week's show?
Yes, indeed.
All right, next week's show includes sprint cars, focus midgets, vintage mods, outlaw figure eights, legends, some combination of boat racing, buses, demo derby, V8 bump to pass, Hornets, Youth Hornets, Stinger 8s, Mr. Dizzy, and fireworks as well. Going to be fantastic. You can all be here to see it on Tuesday, July the 4th, and you should.
And it's the best fireworks show in all of Snohomish County. You won't want to miss the Independence Day celebration out here at Evergreen Speedway.
You will not. For Greg, I'm Caleb. For all the production crew, thank you guys so much for being here with us on this episode of Home Track Heroes. We will see you next week if we don't see you at Evergreen Speedway on July the 4th. Good night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11. Join us next week for more great racing from Evergreen Speedway.